In a sense, you could say God could have created a lawful universe, or he could have created an arbitrary universe. A lawful universe is a universe which operates according to physical laws. Science would be impossible if we didn't have a lawful universe, for example. So you seem to be suggesting God would have done better to create a discretionary universe in which, for example, if the ocean tide is rising and a tsunami is brewing, God jumps in like a cosmic bellboy, puts a stop to it.
This implies that it would somehow be logically impossible to create a lawful universe in which there was no suffering. Also, this implies that D'Souza believes that God does not, in fact, intervene and suspend the laws of nature on behalf of human beings. In other words, he's implying a deist God who performs no miracles. Is Dinesh a deist? If Dinesh does believe in a God which performs miracles, then he does, in fact, believe in a discretionary universe. If we do live in a discretionary universe ruled by an all-loving God, then one would reasonably expect that such a God would intervene to prevent suffering whenever it became a threat.
From the Christian point of view, we are pilgrims on this earth. Our life is short. Eternal life is the ultimate destination. And so suffering and earthly suffering is not the be-all and end-all. In a sense, if a child has cancer and God were to jump in and fix the cancer, that child would still die. So if you say that God's ultimate concern is not simply terrestrial death but salvation, then from that point of view, none of this has the quality of self-evident refutation that you think it has.
Wouldn't subjecting humans to a short life, free of suffering, followed by an eternity in heaven, still be a more benevolent thing to do than subjecting them to a short life full of suffering, followed by an eternity in heaven? It doesn't matter that earthly suffering isn't the whole story. I don't understand why an all-powerful, all-loving God would allow it in the story at all.
All living creatures have been given something to which they are not entitled in any way, namely life itself. Even the person who has little or who is suffering is often clinging to life, which is to say life is valuable to us. We're still in the plus column because we want to keep living. And so what I'm getting at is, do we really have a legitimate complaint against God by saying, in a sense, I've only got one hand, that guy has two. Why did you make me with one hand? Or why did you give me cancer so I have only 47 years of life when I could have had 70? It seems to me that these complaints ring hollow when you consider that our entire life and everything we have is in fact a gift from God. So on the premise that God exists, which was his premise, it looks to me that he has not done anything to any of us that has put us in the negative column. We still, in a sense, are on the positive side of the ledger because we still have something to which we have no claim and no right against him, namely the gift of life itself.
While some people will prefer to stay alive even though they are suffering, it is still the case that there are many, many people who suffer so much that they wish to end their lives, or even wish they had never been born in the first place. For these people, being given life does not place them on the positive side of the ledger. Why would an all-loving God subject people to such lives? But even if a person's suffering is not so great that they would rather not live, saying that granting a life of suffering places us on the positive side of the ledger merely means that Yahweh bestows a net surplus of benevolence. Why would a God which is supposedly omnibenevolent only grant a net surplus of benevolence?
We are trying to speculate about something that is outside the bounds of human experience. And while you say that that's fanciful, he could just as easily turn around and say that for you to speculate on the intentions of God would be sort of like an ant speculating on why humans have created the cities that we have. Any answer is bound to be ridiculous.
And now we get to the cop-out that so many apologists turn to, which is that God is so superior to human beings that it is unreasonable to expect theology to make any fucking sense to us at all.